The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, is beginning to make his mark in Abuja. Well, the FCT, Universal Basic Education Board, has commended Wike for approving 30.9 billion naira for rehabilitation of public schools in the Federal Capital Territory. Acting chairman of the board, Hassan Sule, said the move will strengthen the provision of basic education in the country's capital. And he said that if properly utilized, the fund will assist in tackling overpopulation in the FCT schools and address the problem of out-of-school children. Babajide, we understand this might be a peculiar concern, not only to Abuja, but as well the entire country. But I'm really concerned about this alarming figures from the UNICEF, which also said that Nigeria has one of the highest numbers of out-of-school children. But interestingly, Abuja has one of the least out-of-school children compared to other states like Kebbi, Zamfara, Bauchi. But what do you think of this approved sum of 30 billion naira now for the rehabilitation of schools in the FCT? What significant impact do you think this would have on the overall educational development in Nigeria?
Yeah, you see, you must create an environment that makes children want to go to school. I saw the public primary school in Akwa Ibom. I did a little documentary about it. You will never believe that that was a public school. I think that beginning with Borno State and to an extent Yobe now and Akwa Ibom, state governments are giving so much assent to the infrastructure at public, primary, and even tertiary institutions. When you see how beautiful some schools are, as a student, you don't want to trade that school with any other school. I've asked students that kind of question. When I saw the Ebonyi State University of Medical Sciences, I've not seen a public university as beautiful as that. Beautiful in every way. So it shouldn't be private schools that will look beautiful. You must make public schools beautiful,
conducive
for learning. Those things, those sweet colors that children like, the recreational area that children don't play with, ensure that you put them in those schools. Every day, the child wants to go to school. So the child is self-motivated to even
go to school. Yeah.
Part of the problem we have right now is that enrollment in public schools is growing, but the infrastructure cannot support the new wave of enrollees. So what Wike is trying to do is to freshen up infrastructure in those schools, build new ones, and in such a manner that they will be able to accommodate more students, more enrollees. And then those schools will be really appealing, beautiful, to the point that children, students will feel that, yes, this is my school. I feel proud. I want to be in this school. When I went to Kogi State some time ago, and I went to the GYB Model Secondary School in Adankolo, I asked the student, because I knew how that school used to be. Rustic school, infrastructure thoroughly decayed. And then they put up new structures. I asked those students, and they said, see, in town, people are jealous of us that we are students of this school, that other students are jealous of us because it's now like a status symbol. I'm a student of a GYB model secondary school. Others are not privileged to be there. So infrastructure is important. It's just as important as the quality of instruction that those students get. If you have qualitative teachers and children don't have where to sit. That in itself is a disincentive. So you have to create the enabling environment. Seeing the government of FCT devote that much to school infrastructure is something reassuring to me, because they could have spent it on something meaningless.
Well, okay, go ahead.
So it's reassuring, and I believe that, and I also like the fact that there is a time frame attached to it. There's a time ceiling, 100 days, this and that. It's just the same way that Zulum used to do his thing in Borno State. Let's monitor and see whether in 100 days the project will not be delivered. When you see a leader attaching such time ceiling to projects, you know that he's serious about the job that is being given. So
in as much as this initiative might be laudable and is good at bringing children back into the classroom, but my concern is for parents who do not believe in the educational system for the girl child, for instance, gender stereotypes. So how do you engage them to accept taking their children into such schools? I'm talking about, families that in rural communities, for instance, where they do not believe in education of the children, of the girl child particularly. So how do you think these ones can be won, knowing fully well that our country has a large percentage of out-of-school children in the world globally?
We can solve the problem of out-of-school children if we take some drastic steps, including tightening up security, including coming up with the right legislation. For example, a state like Kaduna is against the law for your child to be roaming the streets at a time when his mates are in school. So we can come up with law criminalizing getting children to be selling pure water and all that when they should be, if they are of school age, at the time when they should be in class. That's one. But infrastructure, expanding the infrastructure in schools is one way of addressing that problem. Because a lot of the schools, you see students, about 100 in the class. There are no louvers. People are sitting
on the bare floor.
On bare floor. Some are just hanging on the window. So the environment itself has to encourage people to feel like going to school. For those, there are cultural reasons, things like early marriage and the rest of that, that make people to drop out of school. That you can also address that with legislation, as well as constant sensitization of the people that, look, this is the value that being educated brings. Embrace it. That sensitization has to be constant. But from my experience, when you go to a state like Borno won the prize in Nigeria in terms of number of fresh enrollees, and they got a World Bank grant. So if you take steps to boost enrollment, which will involve going from place to place, talking to the people and telling them what they stand to gain, taking schools to them. There are communities where they never had any school, and the government had to go and build a school for them in that rural community. That school belongs to them now. In fact, the community, they were encouraged to set up a small committee that will oversee the school, taking care of the school, ensuring that the school retains its beauty and all that. You brought the community into it. They will now know that this is our school. We must do our best to keep this school in good condition. And then their children will also be in that school. So these are steps that can be taken. I don't want us to feel discouraged that, look, this out-of-school children is not something that we can defeat. We can defeat it, but we know we have to address those problems. Children who are scared to go to school because of rampant kidnapping in schools and all that, we have to deal with that problem. We have to deal with the insecurity, so that a child who can remember that his colleagues were kidnapped some time ago will not feel, no, I don't want to go to school. We have to deal with insecurity. It's a big problem.
Indeed, I agree with you. Now, let me quickly get your thoughts on this, Dotun. Let's quickly look at the challenges that may likely occur in the implementation of this program, which might be a plus, for those in the north and Abuja, for instance. But what do you think will be the likely challenges in implementing this out of school or this new system, in the educational system in the country?
Well, I don't think that we will have challenges to contend with once those who are putting things in place know how to set their priorities. For instance, what has happened in the FCT, which Wike did. It did not just first allocate the money to start building those new schools or to upgrade them or to make them beautiful. It first addressed the issues of teachers who were on strike. Because if you go ahead and put such monies into building buildings, constructing buildings, and there are no teachers,
right,
it will be a problem. The teachers went on strike September 11. He just resolved that about a month ago, less than a month. They are back to work. Teachers who have been owed, how do you want them to teach? When you look at it, the neglect of the schools and the teachers led us into this issue of private schools springing up everywhere. Wike is doing something on the side. He's trying to get some money from the private schools by adding to what they pay to the government, 5% additional tax. I love that. But in as much as I love that, I don't think this is the time to do it.
Why?
Because he should first finish with what he's doing with the public schools. And then you can now begin to take children back into them. If you don't have where you are going to send children now, and then you are discouraging the public schools, it's going to be counterproductive. Because for now, people trust more in public schools. You've just been able to resolve this strike issue. Imagine children who have been at home since September, just getting back into school. If they are not there and then the private schools become unaffordable to parents, then it means those children get back home. And you can't run a business where you are running at a loss, no matter how passionate you are about it. At some point you are going to... So it's got to be a whole package. You've got to look at it holistically. So that at the end of the day, just like Wike said, as you are bringing in those who are out of the net in terms of out-of-school children, you are also encouraging those who are within to remain, especially the teachers. It is now that you can begin to talk to the teachers to accept promotion to rural areas because they are sure they will get allowances and they will get paid on time. You know, so it's a good way to go for them.
Indeed.